Good evening. I am Mary Dixon. I am the president of the League of Women Voters of Glendale, Burbank, and I am pleased to welcome you to our forum this evening. As we begin our evening of democracy in action, let us start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization formed in 1920 after women won the right to vote. The League encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government, and membership is open to any person who subscribes to our purpose and policy. We are strong supporters of the election process, and we join the cities of Glendale and Burbank in encouraging voters to not only vote themselves, but to reach out to their family members and their friends and encourage them to vote as well. For the November 8 election, the deadline for registering to vote or changing your registration is Monday, October 24th. Tonight's candidate forum rules call for adherence to the terms of civil discourse by both candidates and the public. The hallmark of democracy is the willingness of all members of our community to treat each other with courtesy and respect, not just the people that we agree with. It is in that spirit that we are here this evening to engage in a vital part of our democratic process, a civilized discussion of the important issues that confront our communities. So I want to thank both candidates and the audience for being here tonight and for their willingness to elevate the discussion to enhance understanding rather than to obfuscate or denigrate their opponent. The questions you will be hearing tonight are questions that we have received from the public. We hope the candidates will find these questions to be challenging, enabling you, the voters, to learn about the candidates and to make an informed decision in the election. Finally, we want to thank those who have made this forum possible. First, we thank the City of Burbank for providing the facilities for these forums. We are particularly grateful for the assistance of Drew Sugars, the Public Information Officer, and his staff. We also have many of our League members here tonight working to make this forum happen. Included are our audience greeters, Elaine Wilkerson and Wendy Kazanjian, question sorters, Renee Lesk and Joan Hardy, and our timekeepers are Bill Carson and Elise Collins. And now I would like to introduce our moderator for this forum, Rita Zwern. Rita is a longtime League member with much experience in moderating forums, and we are grateful to Rita for the many hours that she dedicates to the League. Rita?
Good evening, and welcome to the candidate forum for the 25th State Senate District. This forum will be broadcast live this evening and then at various times until the election date on the Burbank channel and Burbank's YouTube channel. No reproduction or rebroadcast of this forum may be made without the prior written consent of the League of Women Voters and the City of Burbank. No digital or other forms of photography or recording are permitted in these chambers during the forum. The audience here tonight is invited to submit written questions for the candidates. Please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question, and one of the monitors will provide you with a card and pencil. Questions will only be collected during the opening statements and the first 3 questions. We would request that the audience turn off cell phones and pagers and that they refrain from applauding or otherwise disrupting the forum. If a candidate's supporters are disruptive during another candidate's remarks, the other candidate will be given additional time to compensate for the interruption. Additionally, attacks of a personal nature, including private matters having no bearing on a candidate's public persona or ability to perform the duties of the office in a competent, ethical manner, will not be tolerated. If a candidate makes a personal attack during his or her remarks, the time required for me to interrupt the candidate and remind him of the rule will be taken from his own speaking time. The 2 candidates for the 25th State Senate District are, in alphabetical order by last name, Michael Antonovich, Anthony Portantino. Each candidate will be allowed 1 minute for an opening statement, after which there will be a series of 10 questions during the forum. The first question will be addressed to candidate number 1 on the dais, who will have 3 minutes to respond. Candidate number 2 will then have 2 minutes to respond to the same question. The second question will be first addressed to candidate 2, who will have 3 minutes to respond, followed by a 2-minute response by candidate 1, and so on, so that each candidate will have the same amount of time to speak. Following the question period, the candidates will be given 2 minutes each for a closing statement. During these responses, our timekeepers will alert candidates to the time remaining with signs of 1 minute, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and then a stop sign when they are out of time. We will now begin with opening statements. Mr. Antonovich, your opening statement, please.
Thank you. And thank you, Rita, for being the moderator today with the League of Women Voters, presenting this program for the county of people in this district to see the candidates discuss these issues. I was born and raised in South Central Los Angeles. After high school, I went to the United States Army, and after the Army, my service, I went to college, university, from where I received my 3 degrees at California State University, and then also 2 summers at the Senior Executive Program at the JFK School of Government at Harvard University, and then at the Hoover Institute with the ISI students as well. I've taught school, I've been a state legislator, and I have also been a county supervisor for the past 35 and a half years. I have 2 children, a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old, and reside in Glendale with my wife, Christine.
Thank you. Mr. Portantino, your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Rita, and thank the League for putting this on. I'm a proud League of Women Voters member myself. I also want to thank my daughter, Sophia, who came here, who actually works in Burbank in the entertainment industry. Thanks, Sophia, for being here. I'm Anthony Portantino. I'm proud to be running for the state Senate. I believe this district in particular values public education more than any other issue. My kids attend public school. I'm a proud PTA member. My wonderful spouse, Ellen, was the past PTA president of our daughter's middle school. There's no bigger issue, more important issue than education in this district. I'm a strong supporter of California's community colleges, and I'm proud that a number of the community college trustees throughout the district support me. I believe about 70 of the former and current elected school board members throughout this district support my campaign. I'm a big supporter of the Gold Line. I want to go to Sacramento to continue the government reforms that I started when I was there, when I was in the State Assembly for 6 years. In the past several years, I've had the honor of teaching leadership at USC, and I'm proud to be here to say good evening.
Thank you. We'll now begin the question period. The first question is directed to Mr. Antonovich. What do you see as the most urgent needs of the 25th Senate District, and how do you believe they should be addressed? Please explain. Mr. Antonovich, your 3-minute response, please.
We have a number of issues. Public safety. What we have is an increase in crime, and those of you in Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena, throughout the county of Los Angeles are suffering the impacts from a crime increase. Number 2, we have a problem that we have to address, and that's with the foster children, emancipated youth, getting our communities involved for adoptions and being mentors for these young people. We have a trafficking problem. In fact, I spoke today at College of the Canyons on this issue, on a symposium for this region. The average age is 12. The average lifespan is 9 years for these individuals. And working together, our Board of Supervisors united in this effort with our law enforcement agencies and the U.S. Attorney and the FBI in addressing this issue, very crucial. We also have the environment. I'm very proud of the thousands of acres of additional open space and trails that we have been able to provide. It's very important we move forward on the environment. As one of the fathers of cleaning up the, getting rid of the diesel belching buses from MTA. Today, all of our transit systems have CNG or electric buses, and that's helping to clean up the air. We also have other issues, education. I was the father of the Arts High School. This school it's a charter school at California State University, Los Angeles. It scores at the top 99 percentile academically, and those young people go on to college. We need to expand those programs. And as a part of the County of Los Angeles, I'm very proud of the hundreds of thousands of dollars we provided to schools in our county for their arts program and the expansion of those. Burbank has been a recipient of the Bravo Award. Many of those awards have been received by the students in Burbank, Glendale, and the other areas in this area. So we want to expand those. But we have a problem with crime. As the father of the disarm program, where we removed guns from those felons on probation, since 2000 we have removed nearly 11,000 guns. This program started after that terrible shooting at the Jewish Center in Granada Hills and the murder of the postal worker in Chatsworth. We found that these guns were not being removed by people when they went on probation. Now we have a program, and I want to see that expanded statewide. And that's why I'm very proud of the probation officers endorsing me for this race. All three units for the probation department, along with the chiefs of police of the county of Los Angeles. So crime is important, education is important, and transportation. And as I said, one of the fathers of the goal line, getting that goal line to Ontario Airport through Claremont. And we are now expanding a service from Pasadena to Burbank, the Media Center for Employment, to North Hollywood. It goes through Glendale, Burbank, and North Hollywood for access to Universal City. So we want to expand that and make that real as well.
Thank you. Mr. Portantino, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you. The 25th District is a foothill district made up of about 15 small communities: Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena are the 3 largest cities. It's a place where people go for a piece of the American dream, for upward mobility, for a good education. The public schools in this district are terrific. Unfortunately, we don't always fund them to the level that we should. That's why I'm a big supporter, or was a big supporter, of Prop 30, which helped bring more funding to public education, and also I'm a supporter of Prop 55 on the current ballot on November 8th to again make those revenue sources permanent. This is a community college district. It's home to Glendale Community College, Pasadena Community College. Citrus is just outside the district, but the residents that live in the district attend Citrus, the same as Mount Sac. It is a community college-centric district, and I'm proud that most of the community college trustees in this district support me, because I believe that's the forgotten segment of our education model. And one of the things I want to do in Sacramento is I want to institutionalize a K-14 education, not just a K-12 in a silo and a higher education in a silo. We must get our students prepared for a global high-tech economy, for a 21st century job market. We must provide them public safety. I'm proud that most of the leading law enforcement organizations throughout the state have endorsed me in this race. I'm proud that the Sierra Club has recognized my environmental record and has endorsed me. I'm also proud that in this suburban district we shouldn't have guns in the hands of people who shouldn't have them, and I took guns off Main Street, California, and the Brady campaign to prevent gun violence also endorses me in this race. I'm a father of 2 kids. I know the suburban communities because I live, I work, and I volunteer there, and that's my answer.
Thank you. The next question will be directed first to Mr. Portantino. What kinds of plans would you pursue to address the underfunded condition of our state's public employee retirement benefit system? Mr. Portantino, your 3-minute response, please.
Well, one of the things I tried to do when I was in the state assembly is I tried to actually shift the way we budget in California from sort of a black hole morass of fighting for revenue for this, for that, the other, and not having a sense of priorities. I wanted to shift the type of budgeting to what's called a pay-as-you-go form of budgeting, which actually defines what revenue we have up front, how do we use that revenue, what are our priorities, what are our obligations. I'm going to bring that back when I go to the state Senate, because I think that's the way to go. The other piece of the current way we budget is savings are not incentivized. You cannot use a savings in column A to pay for something in column B. Everything's done in a static here and now form of budgeting. Under pay-as-you-go, you can actually score savings. For example, if California lowers the recidivism rate by 10%, we'll save $5 billion. We need a plan in place to do that, because that's the way we deal with the enormous burden on the state's debt for the prison population, is to lower the recidivism rate. Right now, 7 out of 10 inmates that get released go back. We have the highest recidivism rate in the country. And so we need to score the savings that would be done by reducing the recidivism rate, and the pension liabilities go into that into that plan. I mean, you have to know what they are, you have to identify them, and you have to have a revenue way to pay for it. Those public employees police, fire, school teachers who have worked in the public system, who have counted on that retirement, should have that retirement safe and secure like everyone else who works. I know this from a personal perspective. My father died when I was 11. He was 48, and my family was able to survive because of his federal government pension. Without that, my mother would have been in the streets. Even with that, when I was a senior in high school, we had to sell our house and move into a one-bedroom apartment, and my mother, being the rock star she was, she actually gave me the bedroom and she slept on the couch. So the sanctity of a pension is important, but the fiscal stability of the state in order to be able to pay for it is also important. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Antonovich, your 2-minute response, please.
Unlike the state of California, the Los Angeles County's retirement system is in better shape. And what we have, our employees, we pay a portion of our weekly salary toward our retirement, and the county has in our budget where we buy down the liability that we have. We need to take that same fiscal discipline to Sacramento. Sacramento has no fiscal discipline. In fact, that's an oxymoron in Sacramento. We have a very serious problem. It has to be addressed, and it will only do that by having a change in the leadership in Sacramento so we can address this very important problem. And when we talk about recidivism, this 109 and Proposition 47 has increased the number of people being rearrested who are being sent down from the state penitentiaries and being placed from parole down to county probation. We've had like 50–60% recidivism rate, and the laws do not prevent or allow them to go back to jail. They just go back and be arrested. For example, if you're arrested for narcotics today, in the old days you had to go to rehab, or if you didn't go to rehab, you go to jail. Today with Prop 47, there is no leverage for a judge to require you to go to rehab, and if you fail, to go to jail. So what you have a revolving door there that's not helping society. That has to be changed, and we need to be very effective and aggressive in addressing these issues, but fiscal discipline has to be restored to Sacramento, just as we do at the County of Los Angeles, where we have had saving programs, which I've initiated, from consolidation of county departments, saving over $1 billion, and other efficiencies that saved over $3 billion. But that have been supported by my colleagues on the board because we want to have a better delivery of services at the most cost-effective means. That discipline is not in Sacramento, and it has to be if we're going to be a golden state once again.
Thank you. The next question goes first to Mr. Antonovich. Last month, the legislature passed a historic bill calling for the reduction of greenhouse gas levels 30% below the 1990 levels by 2030. How would you continue the Sacramento legislature's leadership in this area? Your 3-minute response, please.
As I mentioned, as a director of the MTA, I provided the leadership where we retrofitted all of our buses to natural gas, CNG. As a result of that, all of the other municipalities are going to natural gas, as you've seen. Also, as a member of the AQMD, all new rubbish trucks are going to be CNG. So now you see the rubbish trucks are being CNG, eliminating a lot of the pollution that the dirty diesel buses were doing. There are other areas that we need to do in those ways that save jobs and clean up the environment. So the goals have to be achievable. What is realistic? What is practical? And work in that vein. There are a number of ways that we can do that, but it takes people working together with establishing realistic goals to achieve the goals of a cleaner environment, which is so valuable and important.
Thank you. Mr. Portantino, your 2-minute response, please.
Well, as a legislator, I was proud to have a very high pro-environmental voting record, and I'm proud that the Sierra Club and the California League of Conservation Voters have both endorsed me in this campaign. I believe and support in greenhouse gas reductions. I believe that California needs to continue to be a leader in the green economy. One of the initiatives that I want to do when I'm in the state Senate is direct the University of California to work in concert with our high-tech corridor and the Silicon Valley and other think tanks to continue to stimulate the green economy. light rail, alternative fuel, alternative modes of transportation are the key. Conservation, across-the-board efforts. I have the voting record that actually supports that, not just statements to say that that's important, particularly the goal line. Gets people off the 210 and into a light rail. I actually supported Measure R, which is building the gold line through the San Gabriel Valley. It's one of the differences between us, and I strongly support the funding of the gold line. Prop 30, again, not only had a provision to help our schools, but it had a provision to give counties and communities the resources they needed to deal with the recidivism issue. It's another difference between us. I supported Prop 30, and my opponent did not. You know, time and time again, this issue is important for California. We've been a global leader in setting a standard for environmental protection. I'm proud that I was part of that during 6 years on the Democratic side of the aisle, and I'll continue when I go back to Sacramento.
Thank you. The next question is directed first to Mr. Portantino. Are existing state programs aimed at keeping jobs in California, including entertainment jobs, actually effective? And what other types of programs would you pursue? Mr. Portantino, your 3-minute response, please.
Thank you. Actually, when I was in the State Assembly, 2 of the tax credits for the entertainment industry were passed while I was there, and the second one, the Felipe Fuentes bill, I actually called the governor before the budget was done, and I said, Mr. Governor, if you don't include the tax incentives to extend them for the entertainment industry, I'm not going to support the budget, because it's got to be a central part of it. And my daughter and wife both work at Warner Brothers, and so they know firsthand the importance of the entertainment industry in California. So I'm a strong supporter of incentive-based legislation. The tax credit for entertainment is brilliant in a sense that you have to create the jobs before you get the benefit. Years ago, the legislature, before I got there, passed tax credits where there was no accountability. You didn't have to create the jobs. They were done in the dead of night. I actually put a bill in that said if you get state money, we need to know who you are. And I think that's the way to go. I also did a workforce needs analysis for the next 3 decades. I put a bill in to do that because that's what we have to do. We have to figure out what the job markets are of the future, tailor-make curriculum to meet it. I created a science and technology fellowship in Sacramento where we have 10 PhD scientists that come to the Capitol every year to help work on public policy to stimulate jobs. Education, certificate programs, the community colleges, new energy, new technology, all need to be nurtured and encouraged in Sacramento. We need a statewide innovation strategy. We have Silicon Valley, but there's no coordination between the biotech industry in San Diego and the Silicon Valley computer industry in Northern California. We need to be more cohesive, and frankly, I actually introduced legislation when I was there to create a statewide innovation strategy. Our intellectual capital is there, but if we don't educate our students, and we don't educate all of our students, we're going to lose jobs because we don't have an educated workforce. When I talk to people at JPL and Raytheon and the high-tech industries that we have, they're concerned that we're not going to produce an educated workforce to meet that demand. And if you think about our education model, when it was created, we were a farming and manufacturing economy. That's not our economy anymore. We need to do more for our students to prepare them. Entrepreneurship is also important. I'm proud to be endorsed by the California Small Business Association for this race because they know I'm committed to helping small businesses. That's an important piece of our jobs and our economy. So again, to sum, our education needs to be integrated with our job market. Our innovation strategy needs to be statewide. The state needs to invest in incentives that are bona fide and have accountability so we know we're creating those jobs in order to have an effectiveness around the state.
Thank you. Mr. Antonovich, your 2-minute response, please.
In 1995, in 1995, I initiated the one-stop process for the film location permitting process. In cooperation with Los Angeles City. It was the county, city, so that the smaller cities would join together. There'd be one place where you could go to get your permits for filming, because filming is a vital part of our economy. So in 1995, we were able to do that, and it's helped save many of the filming jobs. Secondly, what we need to do, we need to roll out the red carpet to bring in our businesses. Right now, we tend to roll out the red tape, and as a result, we've had an exodus of jobs. Everybody's familiar with what happened to Toyota going to Texas. The Auto Club those call centers have been shifted to Texas. So when you call for a flat tire, somebody in Texas is going to give you the directions what to do. We need to bring jobs back here. I'm very proud I was able to bring BYD Motors, and they're located in Lancaster. They're manufacturing the electric buses. Right now, the Antelope Valley Transit Authority is going 100% electric buses. They get up between 150, even up to 200 miles a charge, but creating jobs. But we need to have some tax incentives. Those tax incentives that have worked for the film industry need to also be applied to the other industries that are here, just like the CEQA reform that we need to have. We just can't have CEQA reform for football stadiums or high-rise buildings. We need it for the people who build homes for families. We need to have fairness and CEQA reforms, and that will help create jobs. Also, I would like to state that there's too much, let's say, because of crime, because of some of the schools that are failing and why you need charter schools, people will not locate a business if they see that there's a crime or a school problem. They'll go to another state where there are better opportunities for their children. So we have to restore our communities to safe streets, good schools, and a good environment. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And the next question is directed to Mr. Antonovich. What is your position on the plan for the 710 tunnel to close the gap to the 210 freeway? Mr. Antonovich, your 3-minute response, please.
Right now, that is going through the environmental process. That process has been going on since I was a member of the South Pasadena Police Department, the reserve force, and that goes back to a long time. We are waiting for that report to be completed. The judge is waiting for that report to be completed, and when it is, that will then go to Caltrans and to the Metropolitan Transit Authority. Until the plan is completed, you can't make a judgment until you see what the facts are. Otherwise, you're shooting from the hip, and that's the wrong way of doing business.
Thank you. Mr. Portantino, your 2-minute response, please.
I am 150% opposed to the 710 tunnel. I've been opposed to it for 20 years. It's a boondoggle. It's a $20 billion hole in the ground that doesn't solve a transportation problem. Caltrans' own warrants say, which have been delivered to the MTA, which my opponent sits on, say that at best, this project on the date opens up at level service F. Level service F under their own warrant says don't build it if it's level service F. It will save minimal, de minimis travel time for commuters and will increase arterial circulation. All of those studies are out. All of that information has been available. The one piece of the puzzle that has been the most hard to get from MTA and other transportation leaders who have been advocates of this project for decades has been the cost-benefit analysis. It took me 3 years of browbeating the California Transportation Commission and several motions by MTA Commissioner Ara Najarian to bring transparency and accountability to this issue. Many of those were opposed by my opponent. Every single step of the way, the MTA has moved this project forward, and every step of the way I've tried to stop it. It is bad public policy. It is hiding the 8 ball. It doesn't solve a problem. California needs to stick a fork in it, and I don't need any more rhetoric or any more studies to tell me it's a bad idea and bad for the region and certainly bad for the 25th Senate District.
Thank you. The next question is directed to Mr. Portantino. Many activists in our area have been working hard on issues such as homelessness. How can the state be more effective in coordinating efforts such as this aimed at this problem at all levels of government? Mr. Portantino, your 3-minute response, please.
That's a great question, and one of the reasons why I supported redevelopment for the cities, and again, Burbank was one of the good actors in the redevelopment fight, and it's another area where my opponent and I disagreed. He supported the dissolution of redevelopment. I supported the cities because part of the redevelopment funds were going to buy affordable housing. The County of Los Angeles instituted a landmark project called Project 50, which took Skid Row homeless and put them into housing. Again, many of the supervisors supported that effort. My opponent opposed that effort. There's been many, many homeless efforts underway. The City of Los Angeles is going to put one on the ballot. Again, I support that effort. My opponent does not. This is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. We have problems, and you have to do more than just say, I want to address it. You actually have to fund the solution. And if we keep taking the funding away from those efforts, they're not going to get solved. So the City of LA, Mayor Eric Garcetti, has a cutting-edge plan in place. I support that. I think the state needs to have a statewide incentive. Again, one of the reasons why I oppose the dissolution and redevelopment is there was no alternative on the table. The state needs to have an alternative, a dedicated revenue stream, has to help cities meet their affordable housing, their homeless issues from a statewide perspective. When I was in Sacramento, I tried actually to change the housing element, because under the current housing element plan, cities are only allowed to, or only required to plan to build affordable housing and address these issues. They're not actually required to do it. And I wanted to give cities an incentive to place foster youth, many of whom get emancipated when they turn adults and end up in the criminal justice system. I wanted to try to incentivize cities to put them in single-family homes. I think it was a good idea a decade ago, and I'm going to bring it back. But when you see the homeless, it's a problem that's not getting better, and we have to address it. And thank goodness the City of LA, which is the largest city in Los Angeles County, has a plan to address it. I support that plan, and it's a big difference between the two of us.
Thank you. Mr. Antonovich, your 2-minute response, please.
First, the state of California, Governor Brown and the state legislature is the one that got rid of redevelopment agencies. The counties of the state did not do that. That was a state issue. Secondly, placing this burden on the property tax owner is not the way of resolving this issue. You look at the homeless, they're not just one group of people. You have the alcoholic, the drug dependent, the economically deprived, and the mentally ill. The economically deprived, you can help with shelter, you can help with housing, you can help with programs. The drug addict, the alcoholic, and the mentally ill need treatment. And right now, the law is only 72-hour hold. That has to be expanded, and I helped that law to get passed under Assemblywoman Helen Thompson, and that was passed by the state legislature and signed by the governor. But we need more time to get these people back on their feet, more time. Otherwise, you have a serious problem. I initiated the issue at the MTA, where the bus drivers and the rail conductors will report those that are homeless on a bus bench or in a rail station. They go out, the PET team for mental health, to get these people shelter and assistance. Over 90% walk away, be it El Nino raining or hot as Hades. They're not in their state of mind until they are given medical treatment and assistance. They're not going to be able to be taking advantage of housing or other services because they're denying them now. And I will support on that. And that's why yesterday at the Latino mental health symposium, my colleague Supervisor Hilda Solis, because of my leadership in mental health, had them give me a standing ovation, about 500 people. Our Board of Supervisors is committed in getting the mental health and the services for these individuals, and those who are economically deprived, we have job training programs and housing available for them, and that's what will help those individuals get back on their feet. But the others need medical treatment.
Thank you. The next question will be directed first to Mr. Antonovich. Proposition 55 on the November ballot would extend by 12 years the temporary personal income tax increases enacted in 2012 on earnings over $250,000, with revenues allocated to K-12 schools, California community colleges, and in certain years, healthcare. What is your position on Proposition 55 and why? Mr. Antonovich,
Well, I would
3 minutes.
oppose that for the simple reason we need to have incentives to have people come to California, to invest in California, to get California moving ahead. Right now, California is at the bottom of the 50 states as far as our tax rates. We should be up at the top. We should have lower taxes like other states are having to create and develop jobs for our people. You just can't tax people and keep taxing them to a level that is so high that the disincentives are for them to not stay here, but to go to another state. We need incentives for people to invest here. We need incentives for job creation, not disincentives. And so that's the wrong approach. The community colleges, I was a trustee. I have support from many of the community college trustees in this election. Is a very important element. They need to have fair distribution of state funds, which they currently don't have. They're at the bottom of the barrel, and they should be near the top because they do an incredible job. They don't have the big endowments to help their universities. They don't have the large bureaucracies that just pay big administrative staffs. Their money goes into the classroom. That's the approach that we need to have in the community colleges, and that's the approach we ought to have in the state universities and the state colleges. The money and resources into the classroom. But if you continue to increase these taxes higher and higher, you're not going to have people wanting to move here, and if they don't, they take Toyota and Torrance. All of those public schools, all of those nonprofits that Toyota was giving money to are now going to be benefiting not by Toyota, Texas. They're going to be benefiting those nonprofits. The schools in Torrance won't be. Wouldn't it be better to have incentives to have kept Toyota and Torrance? Wouldn't it be better to have incentives for people to come here and create jobs? I want to create jobs. I don't want to create a society where we have no jobs and everybody's on welfare. That doesn't work. That's not for my children. It's not for your children or our grandchildren. We want a land of opportunity, hope, opportunity, and freedom, not by 100% taxation or 80% taxation. We want to have a fair taxation policy. But again, we need to reform the state and take the fat out of the state government, as we've done at the county level, so that we don't have to have all these taxes. The taxes you already pay will go to services. 80% of your gas tax goes for non-roads and highways. Wouldn't it be better if that money went for roads and highways? Of course it would be. We need to change the makeup in Sacramento and get back to basics, just like we run our families and our local governments. We need to do that in Sacramento, and that's the leadership I will provide. That's the leadership I've been providing on the Board of Supervisors with my colleagues.
Thank you. Mr. Portantino, your 2-minute response, please.
I was a proud supporter of Prop 30, and I'm a proud supporter of Prop 55. One of the things that bothers me about people who benefited when you could go to University of California and it cost you $1,000. You could go to a community college when it was free. When we funded K-12 education at the top 5 in the country, we had prosperity of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Today, we fund education at the lower end nationally. We're last in counselors to students in the country. Community colleges are not free anymore. It's expensive to go to the University of California, not like it used to be. The way to solve the funding and to help our students is through Prop 30, which passed, and Prop 55, which is not a new tax, it's an extension of the taxes in Prop 30. Everything that we do has a price tag. We have to plan and we have to fund. We can't say we're for the gold line and then vote against the funding for the goal line. We can't say we're for public education and then vote against the funding for public education. You can't say you want to solve the homeless and mental health issues and then vote against funding those issues. That's the difference between rhetoric, action, leadership, and actually wanting and having the political will to solve the problems. That's what I do. I'm a public school kid. Every public school kid, and I don't care where they're born or where they come from, deserves a piece of the American dream and the California dream, and Prop 55 is going to help them get it, and I support Prop 55.
Thank you. The next question is directed first to Mr. Portantino. Measure B on the November ballot seeks voter approval for the replacement of the Burbank Airport Terminal, allowing no more than 14 gates, in exchange for governance changes that provide Burbank a greater voice in the future of the airport. What is your position on Measure B and why? Your 3-minute response, please.
I support Measure B. 4 out of the 5 city council members in Burbank voted to support it. I think the key in your description was it gives Burbank more governance, period. It's the property is in the city of Burbank, and under the current way the votes are done, Burbank does not have majority power to govern a piece of property in its own city. Measure B would change that, and the cities of Pasadena and Glendale, which are in partnership with the airport, have agreed to that. So I think it's a good arrangement for the city of Burbank that's supported first from the local level. Again, if the city council was not supporting it, that would be a different story. Also, the way you phrased it, replacement, is very important. It's not an expansion, from what I understand. It's rebuilding the current facility to make it better, make it modern, and make it work better. And Burbank, as a sweetener, gets gets more governance say-so in the structure. So I support the city of Burbank in its effort. Obviously, I don't live in Burbank. I don't get to vote. But the mayor, who's endorsed my campaign, he voted for it. Bob Frutos, who's endorsed my campaign, he's voted for it. Will Rogers, who's endorsed my campaign, he's voted for it. And I support them in their effort to revitalize the Burbank Airport.
Thank you. Mr. Antonovich, your 2-minute response, please.
As a member of the state legislature, I was the co-author with Senator Newton Russell that allowed Burbank, Pasadena, and Glendale to acquire the Burbank Airport from Lockheed. The Burbank Airport is a vital element of transportation and employment in our region. I support the measure. It's very important, and I support transportation. We're also working to expand the transit, so you're going to have access from the Metrolink along with from the GO line. So we're working on those programs, and it's important that we move forward with that adoption.
Thank you. The next question will be first directed to Mr. Antonovich. Last year, the California Healthy Youth Act was passed and requires schools to provide comprehensive sexual education using age-appropriate material to elementary and high school students. What have you done in the past to support sexual education for kids, and how will you support the California Healthy Youth Act should you be elected? Your 3-minute response, please.
Well, they've always had sexual education in the health department, or I should say in the health classes in the secondary schools. So that's been a component. I don't know how much additional requirements are going to be mandated, but I would say that the parents have a voice in that, and they should be included as to what is going on in the classroom. I support and I, as a public school teacher, I taught for a number of years, it's important that the parents are involved with the school board in determining the curriculum for those courses.
Thank you. Mr. Portantino, your 2-minute response, please.
Well, I definitely support comprehensive modern sex education. I'm the father of 2 daughters. It's not always comfortable to talk to them about those issues. I just got a smirk from my daughter. But I'm glad that public schools are a place that are on the cutting edge. You know, growing up with a gay brother, I learned a lot in the 1970s. And, you know, Burbank should be very complimented. Burbank School District should be complimented on its cutting edge approach to dealing with sexual awareness, mental health issues. Burbank is the model. And I tell other school districts around the state to look at what Burbank is doing. Breaks my heart every time I see a young person in turmoil. It breaks my heart further every time I open up the newspaper and I see a young person who's taken their life. And if we can make high schools and schools more sensitive and for the diverse population in California, it's our moral fundamental right and obligation to do so. And so I support those efforts from a statewide perspective and from a local perspective. What affects one of us affects all of us, and we have to be a community that respects that. So those are my opinions.
Thank you. The next question will be directed first to Mr. Portantino. What is your position on Proposition 63 on the November ballot, which mandates background checks for ammunition purchases and bans large capacity ammunition magazines? Your 3-minute response, please.
I support it. As I said in the opening, I'm the candidate who was endorsed by the Brady campaign to prevent gun violence. I was the author of 2 landmark pieces of legislation to take guns off Main Street, California, to close the open carry loophole. And it's a fundamental difference between my record on sensible and smart gun control and my opponents. You know, I don't want people who are on the no-fly zone to have access to weapons. Anybody who opens up the paper and sees the violence from Colorado or Sandy Hook or the colleges that we've seen around the country and the violence that has touched California and San Bernardino and other places, it's out of hand. And those who don't think we should address it, I think are wrong fundamentally. The Second Amendment says you have a right to defend your home. Doesn't mean you have a right to walk into a Starbucks and open fire with a high-capacity weapon. We shouldn't do that. We should make sure no one else dies tragically. And if I'm in Sacramento, I'm going to continue to fight. My opponent when it was the opportunity to take Saturday night specials and ban them in the County of Los Angeles, he refused to do that, and it's a fundamental difference between the two of us.
Thank you. Mr. Antonovich, your
Sure.
2-minute response, please.
As I said earlier with the program Disarm, the problem that we've had, we always go after the law-abiding, and we need to go after those who break the law. Nobody supports people going into Starbucks or any place else and killing people. But we need to go after those who commit the crimes. Very important. The Disarm program, which I initiated in 1999, went into effect in the year 2000. As a result of that, the probation unions are supporting me in this election because they know the value of it. We removed nearly 11,000 guns, assault weapons, handguns, sawed-off shotguns, nearly $1 billion in drug money from those who do not have the right to have a gun. We should go after them, and that should be a statewide program. We always take our eye off the ball. I want to keep our eye on the ball and go after the criminal element. That is the person or persons who belong in jail, and not having the governor with his proposals of letting people out of jail, and then those who've been convicted for crimes using the gun, having them reduced and back on the streets. That's crazy. You don't build a safe community with crime. My neighborhood, and I live in Glendale, we have to pay $300 a month, each of the homeowners, for a private security to work with the Glendale Police Department because of the home invasions and the robberies that we've been having. That's wrong. And we're finding that many of those are people who've been released because of 109 and Proposition 47. That has to stop. And you don't do it by going after the law-abiding. Go after the criminal element. That's what I support. You do the crime, you do the time.
Thank you. The next question will be directed first to Mr. Antonovich. How should the legislature work toward enhancing the state's justice system so as to provide adequate and timely justice for our residents and businesses? Your 3-minute response, please.
What you have to do, you have laws, we ought to enforce those laws. And laws have to be changed, then we can change those laws. But right now, it's a very dysfunctional system. We had money rebuild the Glendale courthouse and a new courthouse in Santa Clarita. The governor and the legislature, they take over $1 billion and put it in non-courthouse funding. As I said earlier, we had the gas tax. Only 20% goes for roads and highways. They take the other 80%, excluding the highway patrol, which is very small sum, they put it in other programs. We need to get back to a justice system and a funding mechanism where the money that is being raised goes for particular programs that they're being entitled for, be it courts or for whatever. Right now, we've had to close courts. The governor's closing courts. We need to open our courtrooms so we can have more justice in the courtroom. We need to have tort reform, very important. And we need to ensure that you have your fair day in court, but there has to be a court open for you to have that fair day. It's very important. So these are some of the reforms that have been lacking. We need to rebuild our courts. We need to open our courts more because they've been closing, so that the justices will be able to provide justice instead of right now there is no justice. And this is why many of the judges unofficially are endorsing me in this, because I've been a forerunner of the court system. In fact, I'm not even a lawyer. I was an educator, public school teacher. The courthouse in Antelope Valley, the judges named it after me because we finally got that one built. And now we're going to build these others, and then the governor takes that money and puts it in non-judicial budgets. Non-judicial budgets. That has to stop.
Thank you. Mr. Portantino, your 2-minute response, please.
Well, I think I was one or only two Democrats who actually opposed AB 109, which was a 900-page bill to release 30,000 inmates on the streets of California. At the same time, the county was cutting every reentry program and every piece of the safety net that would help those inmates. And I felt you can't do that. You can't not have people have the drug treatment, the retraining, when you have a 70% recidivism rate. So I put in a bill that said we need to reduce the recidivism rate by 70%. Prop 30, again, which I supported and my opponent opposed, had a funding source in it to deal with the criminal justice issues that the county was facing. Again, in order to solve the problem, you actually have to have a plan and a funding mechanism to do it. So if we reduce the recidivism rate, we create job training, drug treatment programs that are funded, we can actually stop the cycle of crime. By keeping guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them, we can reduce violent crime. Let's be clear, the California Police Chiefs Association has endorsed me, the Deputy Sheriff's Association, the Professional Peace Officers Association, the Peace Officers Research Association in California has endorsed me as well. People know that it's going to take leadership and common sense and sensible people who understand the big picture, who have a plan in place, and then also want to fight for the funding to address those issues to solve the problem. That's what it's going to take in Sacramento, not just words.
Thank you. The last question will be directed first to Mr. Portantino. We spend too much money on prisons when other state programs are terribly underfunded. The governor has said 10% of the state budget is spent on our prison system. The California Democratic Party and the governor are supporting Prop 57 to reduce the cost. Do you support or oppose, and why? Mr. Portantino, your 3-minute response, please.
And you would pick the one proposition that I haven't read. So I'll answer it similar to the way I answered the last question. To me, the prison expenditure is a supply problem. If you don't have a job, you don't have an education, and you're in prison, and you get out, 7 out of 10 of you go back in. If you're in the foster care system in California, 70% of you, when you're emancipated, end up in the criminal justice system. I had a young girl in my office who was about to be emancipated, and she looked me in the eye and she said, Mr. Portantino, I have my application at every Starbucks in town, and if I don't get a job within the next 6 months, I have 2 choices. She said, prostitution or drugs. And as the father of 2 daughters, it broke my heart. No 19-year-old girl should be facing that as a even knowledgeable choice. And so to deal with the global prison crisis, the drag on the budget, is we have to make sure that we reduce the recidivism rate, and we have to make sure that our population has an education, a job, and a path to success. We need to make sure that drug treatment programs are actually funded and accountable and effective. We need to make sure that the mental health component of insurance meets the needs of a modern 2016 California, not a 1950s California. So it's a multifaceted approach that's going to take somebody who's going to look at it from all the different specters, not just one piece of it. And that's what I did legislatively, and that's what I hope to do if I'm blessed to go to the state Senate again.
Thank you. Mr. Antonovich, your 2-minute response, please.
Once again, we're finding with this proposition, it's kind of like the following the brother of 109 and 47. We have 109 and 47 and a spike in crime, murder down the line. And now we're going to have another Proposition 57. They're going to let hardcore people who even use guns in commission of crime, they're going to lower those penalties for those who use a gun in a commission of crime. That's not justice. That's crazy. So I would oppose it. This recidivism. We're finding there is recidivism because, like I said, you can know the judge can order you to rehab, but you don't show up and there's no penalty. You can go back to court on another arrest for the same offense. He reassigns you to rehab, you don't show up, there's no additional penalty. It's a merry-go-round. There's no justice there. The system is broken. You talk to the former judges that were the judges of the drug court. What happened? The kids going through rehab have diminished. We need to have a tough law that's being enforced that has to be reasonable. Letting hardcore criminals back on the streets is crazy. When they say, well, put an electronic anklet on, then it's okay. That electronic anklet doesn't immobilize any part of your body. All it does is send an alarm to whoever has the contract for that, who calls the local police department and tells them that their client has now violated his parole. We've had people murder and rape wearing their anklet. That's not the solution. You need to take the fat out of the prison system, and just like you need to take the fat out of the education system so that the money goes in the classrooms in education, and the money that goes for prison goes for the prison and not some large bureaucracy that's feeding off of the Department of Corrections. Having doctors that have malpractice, okay,
Thank you.
I'll finish that.
The candidates will now have 2 minutes each for their closing statements. Mr. Antonovich, your closing statement, please.
We have people, the medical doctors, because of malpractice, can no longer practice medicine, so they're in the mailroom, or they're delivering mail, but yet getting a doctor's salary. That's wrong. If they have malpractice, they shouldn't be in the prison. They shouldn't be delivering mail. If they do, they should get the mailman's salary. Secondly, I'm very proud of the leadership that I've done on the goal line, one of the fathers of that. In fact, as Measure N was opposed by Mayor Bogart, was opposed by Sam Pedroza, who was a member of the construction authority that's building that, was opposed by the Pasadena Star-News, because it was taking money for West Los Angeles from the San Gabriel Valley. We wanted the goal line to go to Claremont. We didn't get it. But now we have a Measure M on the ballot that will get us to Claremont, and that's being supported because when I became chairman of MTA, we said we're going to have a program from the bottom up where we talk to the people as to what we need, and that's what we have before the people. That's the way you provide leadership. That's why Mayor Garcetti, Mark Ridley Thomas, former mayor of Lakewood, Diane Du Bois, and John Fasana. In fact, John Fasana just endorsed me because of my leadership on this issue. Very, very important. But again, you need to have quality education and mental health. That's why I have so much support from the mental health community. They even named the building after me. D.D. Hirsch's mental health building is now named after me because of the leadership that we've done. We need to increase the time of treatment for the mentally ill to get them stabilized on their feet. We need to do a better job in providing a free society where people can be free to go on the streets, to do what they want to do, and not where we have spikes in crime, and it's not safe for our children or your children. That's not right. We want to have a safe community, the one that I grew up with. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I was in the Army to defend the freedoms that we have, and as a supervisor and as a police officer and classroom instructor, I was able to fight for those freedoms.
Thank you very much. Mr. Portantino, your closing statement, please.
Right. Thank you for this opportunity to be here tonight. I hope people got a good understanding of the differences between us. I went to Sacramento to A, be myself, and B, make a difference. I set up California's umbilical cord blood collection program so we can actually collect and store stem cells to cure leukemia. When our students had no protections for the diploma mills through the for-profit colleges, I set up the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education to see that our students would be protected. When 40-year-old women came up to me in the post office and said, we went to get our first mammogram and we found out we had breast cancer, why did we wait till we were 40? And I saw that insurance coverage didn't cover detection for younger women with risk factors. I changed the law based on that conversation in a post office. I was the only legislator out of 120 who had my home telephone number on the state's website. If I'm going to work for you, you should be able to call me, and if you have a good idea, I'm going to listen to it and try to put it into practice. My home number is 818-952-3432. For Burbank, I supported the entertainment tax credit from the first time I went there to the moment I left. I'm proud to be supported by the environmental community, the Sierra Club, the Brady campaign. We haven't talked a lot about women's health issues tonight, but that is a fundamental difference between the two of us. I believe in a woman's right to choose, and my opponent does not. I believe that you should be in charge of your own body. My opponent does not. When it comes to the goal line, we can talk all day long about what we wanted it to be, but when the time came to fund the gold line through the San Gabriel Valley through Measure R, I was in the legislature and I helped craft that legislation to put it on the ballot so it would pass, so the gold line would actually get funded. My opponent opposed the funding for the gold line. It's important that we know these distinctions. When it comes to homeless, when it comes to efforts to address mental health, I bring a personal, passionate perspective. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you both. And this concludes the forum for the candidates for the 25th State Senate District. Thank you both very much.